Hello everyone, Sunshine here with Awaken Solar. I want to talk today about the design guidelines for residential historic districts in Boise, Idaho. The city of Boise has a North End, as it's commonly called, historic guidelines. And this book is what they use to approve or deny all of the projects and renovations, things like adding solar. They use these guidelines, and this was adopted 2013. And if you catch at the bottom here, sustainability content added 2011. So if we go into the table of contents, you can see they differentiate the historic districts by the different areas, the styles of houses. Now, this is the section we'll be focusing on, Chapter 4, 4.3, Solutions for Energy Generating Technologies on Historic Structures, like adding solar panels. And then Chapter 5 has one interesting part, energy generating equipment, that further qualifies and tells you what's acceptable or not acceptable for solar. So if we go into the intro of this guideline, it talks about, how the historic district came to be and what the guidelines are meant to do. And we can read what I've highlighted here. Historic preservation is not about slowing or hindering development, but rather not overlooking the value of what we already have. So not slowing or hindering development. That to me means you would want development, solar, energy efficiency, sustainability to be something that was expedited, that was recommended and approved easily. So if we go into the appropriateness, you see appropriateness talks about the city planning and department and what they determine as appropriate. Basically, when you do any project, like applying for adding solar photovoltaic to your roof, you need to apply for a certificate of appropriateness. That has a fee associated with it. And the commission, through a hearing, there's a commission that can approve your project. But before you get to that point, before you have to pay the $300 for a hearing, the city staff has the authority to approve minor exterior alteration requests, but significant changes that may require greater discretion and interpretation require commission approval. That statement is very interesting because I've seen historic district applications for solar be approved at the city staff level. And most recently, we have one that's not being approved by the city staff level. They're saying they cannot approve it. It has to go to a hearing, which requires a pretty hefty fee to get to that hearing. So if we go to the sustainability section, promoting a more sustainable community is an important objective in Boise, and the city's preservation program plays a key role in it. The benefits of preserving historic resources and conserving older buildings and neighborhoods in Boise contribute to all three components of sustainability: cultural, societal, environmental, and economic. The main principles of sustainability applied in these guidelines promote the efficient use of resources, including historic resources. The application of sustainability in historic districts is intended to maintain the character of these neighborhoods while enhancing their livability and maintaining them in active use. Now, I would interpret that as far as it in regards to solar as, making solar part of the livability and active use of homes, again, should be something that sustainability and that paragraph there really wants to promote and encourage, not hinder. So the map, you can see the map of the historic district in Boise, and it talks more about the guidelines, some context. And then there's a little bit more on sustainability that's really neat right here. This section of the preservation guidelines focuses on green building design and other aspects of sustainability as it relates to historically significant buildings, sites, and districts. Promoting a more sustainable community is an important objective in Boise, and the city's preservation program plays a key role in it. More sustainable community is important to the city of Boise. I should think that renewable energy would be something they are head over heels for if I just were someone reading through these guidelines for the first time. Maybe you're considering moving to Boise and buying in the North End. These guidelines make it sound like it's so great and amazing and supportive of things like solar. Now, it has section 4.3, page 64 in the current guidelines. Here you see at the top a few pictures of solar, and following this breakdown in the guidelines, I will actually show you a lot of the solar I found in the North End in my next video. So what we have here is they start to define what's appropriate, and it is a general principle. The reversibility of their application will be a key consideration when determining appropriateness. So when you add solar, it needs to be reversible, right? Just putting in completely new permanent structures, that's not what the historic district wants. They want it to be historic. They want it to be reversible. All modern solar panel installations are reversible. They're on top of the roof. They can be taken off in 30, 40 years. When they start to really degrade, they can be recycled. You could put new ones on, or just leave them off and let the shingles, the original roof, let's say the original color and style of the roof, take over. So on the next page, the solutions for specific technologies. What's appropriate is mounting collectors flush below the ridge line on a sloping roof, just like that, which defines every normal solar installation. Not appropriate. These inappropriate collectors contrast too strongly with and overwhelm the character of the historic district. And I think basically what they mean here is the problem is that they are literally covering, from tip to tip and to the edge of the roof right on the front of the house. And they're darker, and this house has a lighter roof. I have seen a house that has panels all the way to the edge and even kind of over some of the corners, but they were silver panels, which in the solar world look uglier or are less aesthetic and they're a little cheaper, but maybe they would have said those are appropriate. Tough to but it mentions here on 4.3.14 appropriate preferred locations. Preferred, that's an important word, for solar collectors include side arrays in a rear or side yard, on the roof of an addition or secondary structure, or on the rear portions of the roof on the primary structure. So they would prefer it be on the rear or, a garage. Acceptable. Locating collectors on the front portion of a roof or into the side yard is acceptable when preferred locations are not feasible, meaning if the preferred locations are facing due north, which I've seen. You would want to minimize the visual impacts by setting collectors back from the front of the house as much as possible. So it's acceptable if they're set back and there's no other appropriate location when the other locations are not feasible. Not appropriate. Now, this is what was cited to me as why the staff level can't approve. Collectors located on a primary street-facing roof face. Street-facing. So that was said to me over and over, street-facing. We can't allow street-facing. The panels can't be street-facing. Every solar array in some way is street-facing, and if it's on the side of the house, not the front of the house, and there's a side street, it is facing that street. Collectors located in a front yard. That one seems pretty obvious. They can't be in a front yard. I haven't seen any in the front yard, but street-facing, I have seen. I've seen that quite a bit on a primary roof as well. So if we go on to the next section, it further defines acceptable. So what's appropriate? Ideally, you want them on the back, but let's say there's a big tree back here, then acceptable is here towards the front. And maybe there's a side street, as I said, and that would make this street facing. And I've seen multiple installations like that where they are street facing. Not appropriate is just kind of covering the entire section with the panels. There's no setback. They overwhelm the character of the historic roof structure. So 5.12, this is the more interesting section, which seems to me override the street-facing argument. It says, through here, solutions for solar collectors, it's acceptable to place a collector on a primary facade or roof when it is not feasible to use one of the preferred locations and where it will not detract from the character of the district. So, it can be on the primary facade, it can be street-facing, as long as it doesn't detract from the district, the character of the district, and the main other roof sections aren't feasible. Whenever they're north facing, let's say, or they're underneath too much shade, you can use street facing. You can put it on a primary facade. So that seems to be it. It seems to be very simple that you should be able to do solar. You shouldn't have a lot of pushback. But as I'm seeing, and as my experience in different projects for homeowners in the North End, is that they are having a lot of headaches, extra cost, and huge delays in projects to get solar. So in the following segment of this video series, I show you all of the sections, all of the homes and areas where I have seen solar, and I'll let you determine for yourself and decide that are those appropriate based on these guidelines, or have those guidelines and the precedent already been set that solar can be street facing, that, you know, solar that's not overwhelming and obviously, you know, obviously inappropriate should be approved at a staff level. That's what I think should happen. We should really be supporting solar in the North End and making sure that it's easy to get installed. So thank you so much. Keep watching the next video for examples of this and seeing how hard it is to get it installed.